Hello and welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages. That's what we do here with James Lott Jr. Guess who I am? And I love talking about books. I love reading books. And if you don't understand, I actually read the books. I've talked about this before. I actually read the books that I do. I think it's very important because sometimes you find little tidbit and things that you want to ask people, the answers to questions that others just do, regular, well, how'd you write the book? Like, well, all of that stuff. But you go in between the pages. And some of these pages in this book,
A little spicy.
I need a cigarette afterwards. So I hear that. But let me tell you, so the book's called We Are the Match. If you are watching, oh, what's the wrong way? There it is. Now, if you're listening, it's called We Are the Match. It's in the book. So I have all these notes, folks. I'm sorry. I just wrote down this danger, love, power, mob families, war, women with a Y. That's what I wrote about this book. She'll tell us more, obviously. Right now, as when this comes out, this is actually still on pre-order. But if you're watching it after it came out, it's out. So either way, you can get on Amazon or wherever you find books. Of course, it's called We Are the Match, and she's Mary E Roach. Hi, Mary.
Hi, James. Thank you for having me. Thank you for reading. I loved the women with a Y description. That is on point. This book is for the gays. Book is for women. This is about us and for us.
Yes,
Um,
and I'm
yeah,
going
it's
actually. When your book comes out, I'm buying a copy to give to one of my women friends who was looking for literature like this because there's several themes in this book that you do that I think it's different. It's very unique. And I think, especially for women, they've done it through men and stuff. But I think, for women, doing a whole Helen of Troy, we'll get to about all that. But I'm gonna pass it on to her. That's why I say, I said, because this is a advanced reader's copy. This is mine. This is mine. But I said I'm gonna get a book for her so she can read it and she'll love it. It is Pride Month. It's LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. We celebrate here on JLJ Media. I'm part of the tribe. You can guess which one I am. I'm part of the tribe, and so that's why I'm glad to feature this book now and to talk about it so we can get into this. So, but first of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
You do a lot of YA stuff actually before. So you go on there, you'll see a lot of YA stuff. So now this is adult romance. Kind of. Well, this romance, but there's also other stuff in it too. But it's adult. I was gonna say it's adult. It's not for teenagers. But I guess, well, no. It's not for teenagers. For older teenagers, older.
Sure.
So what made you decide to do the switch for this book?
I actually wrote this book before the book by YA, any of that. So I wrote this a long time ago. I wrote this back in 2019,
Oh,
and I have the process to get here took a long time. But I love romance. I kind of grew up thinking there really wasn't space for me in the genre because there was a lot of like really, really straight romance, which like no offense to the straights, but it's Pride Month, so we're not here to talk about that.
no, no,
We're
not.
here to talk about the
No.
gays.
Yes, we are.
Um, and then I read a lot of like as I got older, I think the genre got a lot more diverse and a lot more, accepting. And so then I read a couple queer romances. Like I love Meryl Wilsner's queer romance. They're a good friend of mine. And so when they published their first book and it was like two women on the cover, and I was like, oh my God, like wait, we can do this. And obviously like there have been sapphic romances since before Meryl. But it was really cool to like see that happen. And so I was like, I want to write something where Meryl writes like really sweet romance, I was like, I think they're gonna try to like hurt each other first and like maybe be plotting against each other and like it's for problematic women. You know that quote that's like, I support women's rights and I support women's wrongs. This book is about women's wrongs.
You never heard that? I like that. I've never heard that before. Oh my God, I love it. I'm going to use that. I love that. I
Yeah.
never heard of.
That's how to be an ally to women. Support women's wrongs, right?
Well, I should say when we're fighting for gay marriage, let's always say, I'm fighting for our right to not get married. And people say,
Yeah, there you
oh,
go.
I go, oh, okay, James. I'm like, thank you. That's fine.
Yes.
And I'm fine because we didn't have a choice. It was just like,
Yeah.
you can't get married. It's like, well, I want a choice to say, I don't want to get married, not because I
Yeah.
can't.
Yes, that
For
too.
women's rights, yeah, and there's toxic relationships out there and stuff. All kinds of stuff goes on, and heated relationships that we shouldn't have been in, and we were in
Yeah.
anyway. I mean,
It's kind of like a situationship. Like I think that's the right word for it.
I'm like, why don't you go out to LA? We best friends. I can tell already. Um, I know, I love it. No, that's and this book. I'm telling you, I've seen almost kind of male versions of this. As I was saying, for seeing that's what makes your book different. We're going to talk about the premise, but that's why I think your book is so different and engaging for me because they were at odds. But
Hmm.
you can tell there's this tension there. Okay, so I'm going to skip right ahead to something real quick. Page 232. I can't read it because it's not an adult show. But I'm just saying, folks, you go to 232. And why I'm bringing this up because yes, I'm not trying to be salacious. It's a sexual scene.
Hmm.
It involves some fingers. Um, but I viewed it as a power scene also between
Hmm.
Helen oh my god, I'm gonna look at her name all of a sudden.
Paris.
Paris, thank you. I saw it as a power scene
Hmm.
also.
For sure.
Not a bad way. I just thought it was interesting. Even in the middle of all of that, in the middle of pleasure, there was still this kind of like, come on, girl. It must have been a fun scene to write. I don't know. I mean, there's several scenes in there, but it must have been a fun scene to write.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, so much of their relationship is rooted in this like power, like they really engage in a lot of power exchange. I think in the world, Paris has so much less power than Helen, but in the bedroom, that doesn't have to be the case, right? So that's kind of like I think a lot of their really spicy scenes really rely on this like Helen has to surrender control and Paris assumes control. And it really relates to I think that power exchange in spicy scenes doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? Like it reflects like the power we inhabit just in the world and what we make of that, and then we can play with that a little bit in things like this. So I think it was really fun to explore that, and like how much power does Paris really have, no matter what she gets to do to Helen, and how much power does Helen really relinquish when she can step outside of that role and return to all of the privilege and opulence that she's grown up in. So it was fun and spicy to
Yeah,
explore.
no, this girl, it's my, I said, I can't read it on. I'll be like bleep, 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 bleep. I mean, YouTube's
Yeah.
help me, but it's a good scene. It's a really good scene. Even for me as a gay man, I was like, well, I got turned on. Um,
Yeah, good.
that means that's a good scene. But no, but the thing is, I because that's a major theme of this book is they come from different worlds, they collide,
Mhm.
and they're trying to and they're kind of coming together in these different power scenes, sexual scenes, these family scenes, a bunch of things coming up. Um, Tell folks, I guess we'll start there. The premise of the book because it's based on a couple of characters and stuff in the past,
Mhm.
but modernized. So let's start there.
Yeah, so it's a modern sapphic retelling of the myth of Helen of Troy. And it's I talked to somebody on a podcast recently and I almost pitch it as a prequel to the events of the Trojan War because we really only get the beginning of it. So in the original myth, Eris, a god of discord, throws a golden apple into a party and it says to the fairest, and then three different goddesses fight over who that is addressed to, and they ask Paris to figure that out, and then that's how Paris meets Helen. And in this one, in this reimagining, it's rooted in sort of modern-ish Greece. It feels maybe a little step removed from like the real world, right? Because it's crime families and mob bosses, and we don't know who throws the golden apple, but instead of being an apple, it is a engraved golden grenade. And it says from the queen, and there are a couple different mob boss ladies involved who it could be from. And so Paris is hired to find that person. So it's a really like dark and mob-y twist on that. And then and Paris has her own secret agenda, she's out for revenge against Helen and Helen's family. And Helen is trying to flee the family. She doesn't want any part of it. So their goals really clash. Paris is kind of hunting Helen. Helen is trying to escape but frame Paris for it. And then, of course, like what better premise for falling in love? Like find your life partner, right?
Yeah, why not? You know, that happens. It's dramatic license. That happens.
Yeah.
But no, but I want to because there's so much going on in this book. But
Mhm.
folks, it's easy to follow, very well written and easy to follow. Um, how did you, as a writer, as we go between the pages, how did you remember and navigate all of that? I mean, you just said it's like there's like five things going on, sometimes at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I drove my editor crazy. That's the first thing you need to know. She was like,
Hi,
"Who
editor.
is
We
what
love
and
you.
where?" Yes, sorry, Amy. Really sorry. I know what I did. My second book is so much less complex because I was just so tired of edit letters that were like, "Who is this person?" And on this page they're this, and I was like, "None of that. We're gonna have like three characters max." But I
Yes.
think when We Are the Match, like, I really loved the complexity of it. I was like, I love diving into like all the little like nitty-gritty pieces of the mythology and seeing what I could twist where. And I love a complex world where there's a lot of different people with competing goals because it's so much fun. Like none of them can all like they can't all be successful, but you kind of root for different people along the way and you're like, how can I root for both of these characters whose goals are completely at odds? So kind of holding like everyone's competing goals in a scene just really added so much tension and explosiveness, which was really fun.
It worked. And the thing about Helen and Paris, like, they have similarities.
Hmm.
There's some commonalities between the two of them, also. So it's like you wrote two rich, complex characters, I believe. I really do believe that you did. And I feel like there are times when you're kind of leaning towards Helen, then there are
Hmm.
times you're like, well, no, bitch, I'm over here with Paris.
Yeah.
Like you did that successfully. So that was something I would just want you to know. Like you talk about that a little bit. I really enjoyed that part too.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted them both to feel real and I wanted them both to feel complex. And I think Paris is kind of like, she gets a little bit like self-righteous about how she's like, well, I'm not like you. I'm
Yeah.
not part of these really wealthy families. Like, you have all this power. But Paris is also complicit in all of the bad things that happen in this
Yeah.
world to a lesser extent. Like, she does have less power, but she's still complicit. And Helen is like, well, none of this, I didn't have any power. None of this was something I wanted. I was born into this, which is a really great analogy for privilege generally. Like, everyone who's born into privilege is like, but I didn't cause it, guys. Don't look at me. And Helen kind of has to learn to accept that she is complicit, that she is part of power. Like, there's a scene where Paris says, "No, you are the power," and Helen is really upset about that. But it's a great like foundation to them both facing their similarities because there's another scene where Helen is like, "No, like you made these choices that blew everything up." And Paris is kind of like shook by this. And then she has to like, they kind of have to both reckon with their morally gray status and then decide what to do from there, which is kind of fun.
That's what I'm saying. There were times I'd read it and go, well, I'm on Helen's side. And I'm like, no, girl, I'm on Paris' side because in a broken clock is right twice a day, right?
Yeah, they're both broken clocks.
Right,
That's
exactly.
the
That's how,
pitch.
right. So isn't that funny? That's how I relate to when I read the book. I was like, there are things that Helen, like you said, would say, and I'm like, well, she's right about that though. Like, girl,
Yeah,
like, but then you say something about Helen, like, well, she's right about that too, because it is, it's so like today, right? It's so like what's going on today out there.
for sure.
It's hard for folks who are born into something, no
Hmm.
matter what it is, sometimes accept that
Hmm.
and accept that what they were born into may oppress or hurt other people.
Hmm.
It can be anything, right? It can be anything.
Absolutely.
Class, wealth, sexuality, religion,
Hmm.
whatever it is. You're born into a Baptist family, so to speak, and that's
Hmm.
all you know. But you're thinking, well, I'm not like them, really. I mean, I was just born into it, and I
Hmm.
don't really. But it's like, but you're still part of it. I'm not saying you're a bad person too, but you kind of have to accept
Yeah.
stuff may have hurt that Pentecostal family down the street, or like that may have hurt.
Right. Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's why I feel like your book is
absolutely.
similar. That's like it does kind of talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I want people to enjoy it and feel like it's a fun read, but I think a good book will make you at least question things a little bit or be a little bit uncomfortable because I think like you were saying, like you can be born into something and you can have all the right values and think of yourself as a good person, but you could still embody values that hurt somebody or have oppressed somebody. And the space you take up. Like I currently live in a neighborhood that I've lived in for a really long time, but when I looked into the history of it, it had been a really thriving black neighborhood that had been bulldozed to build a highway before I was born. And so I was like reckoning with this, like I love the home I live in. I love this neighborhood a lot, but the reason that I'm here in this neighborhood is because somebody else was displaced 40 years ago, right? Like there is a reason that I have benefited from this. And it's complicated. It doesn't mean that I caused it, but it does mean I benefit. And those are like, that's a complex thing to hold and just like sit with, right? And I think Helen and Paris both have these moments throughout the book. And this kind of, it's not a fantasy world, but it's sort of a step removed from the
Yeah.
real world. And I think sometimes that makes it easier for people to reckon with things like, what am I complicit in? When like none of us, I mean, I can't speak for you, but I'm personally not in any mobs. So like obviously not super related to like real
I'm in
life.
the game of. Okay,
In the game mob. Okay, well, you got me there.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't.
I'm in
If
the
there is one,
community
I'm sorry.
mob.
I don't want to offend anybody. There's, No, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was all. I'm really interested in this game mob, and can I join? Is there a membership?
I'll get you in. Get you next
Yeah,
meeting. Next meeting.
great.
Next meeting.
Perfect.
No, I know
Yeah.
what you mean. No, we're not really about it. But nobody, here's the thing. I want people to know also this book is it's a good read, folks. You'll have a good time. And you'll end up rooting for Helen in Paris. You will.
Mhm.
You're like as I was getting through the house, like halfway through the book, I'm like, will they actually really get together? Can they really make this work? Or is it one of those doomed love stories? Like I kept thinking all this stuff. So your book does help us think that. It's like what's gonna happen with them? Because you start to get invested in them, each of them.
Yeah, sure.
You want to see where their journey is going to go. It's almost like it's parallel. It's like parallel, perpendicular. So yeah, parallel. They're parallel going. They keep intersecting. So you're like,
Mhm.
okay, you like the intersection. I like it. I like when they
Yeah.
intersected. But you're just wondering how will this go. So folks, you will end up rooting for them. You will end up rooting for them. You will end up rooting for them. So people know it's a good read for that too. She's not
Yeah.
preaching anything in the book. Just like that is just said that the themes you'll if you are of any kind of consciousness, which most of us are, you're gonna pick up stuff just as you read
Yeah.
it. Pick up stuff as you read it.
Yeah. And hopefully you're also like throwing the book at the wall, being like, when will you get together? Because that's
Yes.
also the goal.
I told you. I said I was halfway through. I was like, "What's going on? Come on!" Oh my goodness! I mean, that's a
They
good
get so
book.
close so many times and
I
then
know. That's what
miss
I'm
each
saying.
other.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Well, I mean, since we go in between the pages, I have to ask, um, which one are you? Or are you both?
I
Parts
That's
of
a good
both.
question.
Yeah.
I think there are ways in which I relate to both. I think I relate more to Paris. Paris was easier for me to write, but there are certain things about Helen's upbringing that I think I can relate to. So I think just like her the way that she sort of has to keep this like really like stoic face and keep up appearances and like not really show any of her emotions, whatever those are, and the way that any move she makes can be kind of misconstrued or cause like I mean the whole myth of Helen of Troy is that she was so pretty a bunch of men went to war. Like
Yep.
talk about high stakes for just like how you got dressed in the morning, right? But I think there's like a parallel to be found between like being raised as a eldest daughter in a religious household, which is my experience, right? Where you have to like there's so much like appearances you have to keep up. And in churches, and I'm sure not all churches, I'm only speaking to like my experience, so no offense if church is your thing, but a lot of women are told that how they dress will cause men to stumble. They'll cause your brother to stumble if you're wearing the wrong clothes. So I think there's like pieces of Helen that I relate to. But mostly I relate to Paris because Paris is a problem. So, and a menace. So I relate to the like Paris is here to like cause some discord and chaos. Paris is here
Oh,
to kind of achieve her goals by any means possible. She's a little bit ruthless. She is kind of grew up on the margins, on the fringes, and she's like here to fight. And I really love that about Paris. So I definitely have pieces of both.
that's fine because you did create both, so you are that's fine. You have your pieces of both. Um, I look at when you talk about the new age of um, let's say lesbian writing.
Yeah,
I know there are a couple of new writers out. I can think of their names right now, but there's one who's of Asian descent who's writing some great stuff. Um,
yeah.
and there's a couple of people I know I can't think of their names right now, but they're writing some great
Hmm.
sapphic, as we call it, female on
Yeah,
female stuff. I think I go back to like Audre Lorde. I go back to Alice. Alison Bechdel was doing things for
oh yeah,
years. I mean, I know some. Actually, I know some of them. Rita Mae Brown. There's people who walked so you could crawl so you could walk, so to speak.
yeah, for sure.
So I just applaud you for deciding to do this. And what made you decide I'm gonna write this kind of lesbian story, kind of historic, not historic, what made you decide to go this? I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. I think there's been so many myth retellings, especially Greek mythology. Like that is a common place. A lot of people love to retell those stories. Zeus is always the bad guy. Like we all agree on some things. And I think there's certainly been some queer retellings. Like I am in no way saying I'm inventing or reinventing this genre, but there's been less sapphic retellings than I would like. And so I just kind of wrote the story that I really wanted, which was I wanted to imagine Helen through our eyes because I think Helen of Troy through the female gaze, through the sapphic gaze is a really different character. And imagine like kind of the question that drove me with Helen's character was there's so many pieces of the Trojan War that everyone retells, including Helen's mythology. But I was like, what could be so bad about the life you're born into, the privilege you were born into, that running away and causing an entire war was worth it to you? Like that freedom was worth it to you. So how bad could it have been to start? And what kind of freedom did you see at the end that you were in pursuit of? And so I wrote this book as like these two women who are both seeking freedom ultimately in different ways. And I wanted to understand Helen of Troy through a new to me gaze. I'm sure there are sapphic retellings that I'm not aware of. But I love a good Greek mythology retelling, and I loved getting to play in that sandbox, but in a gay way. So that was the big piece there was I wanted to understand Helen better, and I wanted to have the opportunity to make mythology just even a little bit gayer. So
always down for that.
yeah,
It was pretty gay as it on its own, but yeah, I'll
it
take it.
is.
Right. It is. But no, I mean, seriously, I mean, there's like, Greek mythology, Roman mythology. I was gonna say what else there's. I mean, we all have things from the past that you're right. There's been retellings in other forms, in other ways. So for women, and women buy books, women of all shapes and sizes. Reading is not out the window. People
Yeah,
are reading. They're doing Audible. They're doing. I mean, they're just like people are devouring books, and women buy books. And I think
yeah.
we should write for women for women. You should be writing stuff for for them to say this is for us.
Yeah.
Us.
It's why I love the romance genre. It's the biggest genre in the industry. It is a multi-billion dollar industry, and it's so impressive because it is just most of the authors are women, most of the readers are women. Like it is just such a female space. And it's so interesting when people kind of gatekeep a little bit about what's real literature or not. And I find the conversation fascinating because like who decides? Because you have to be pretty good to be able to sell hundreds of thousands of copies. And even if it's not really like highfalutin, super, you know, I think that our standards are a little skewed anyway. I think that our standards are skewed towards certain voices above other voices, and I'm sure you're aware. Those authors you mentioned certainly were like they were fighting an uphill battle. But I think romance is so cool. Like we all gather to talk about these like horny, messy characters like doing their thing. That's so cool. Romance readers are also so great. They're so much fun.
Well, I know, and that's I mean, it's and we've already seen. I mean, like you said, the romance genre is so big, and on this show, I've interviewed Christian romance writers all the way to the smut.
Yeah.
I've done. I'm not. Serious. I've done the gamut over the past 5 years of the show, and I love talking about all of it. I mean, because to me, it's so the Christians are they're very chaste. It's very
Mhm.
that's still an art form. It's
Yeah,
still
for
an art
sure.
form to write that stuff. And I don't
Mhm.
care if it sounds like smutty or whatever. That's still an art form also. And it's an
Yeah,
art form.
definitely.
And
I
everything in
feel
between.
like it both on both ends of the spectrum. I love it. Like, listen, there was that one book that got really popular on Book Talk, The Ice Planet, the big blue
Yeah.
Asian guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what magic she worked, but she had like has had like hundreds of thousands of copies sold. And she must I haven't actually read it, I will confess, but I've seen
I
like
read
the
it. I
giant
read it.
blue, right? And that's on the very smutty end. But then also I have a good friend who is religious and wrote a religious romance. And I read this scene where they're like washing dishes next to each other, and it's very chaste, and their hands touch. And I was like heavy breathing. I was like, oh my God, like
Right.
how did you make this so like intimate?
Right.
Um, and you know what? It was like about a man and a woman. And I was like, I don't even go here or really know what they do, but like I was like, this is cool. Like you're doing great.
I
So
agree with you completely. No, I'm saying that I say it's an art form either direction with this
mhm.
and everything between. And so wait, so let me ask you this question. So how easy or what's the level? There's the question. What's the level of difficulty or easiness to write those spicy scenes? Because you
Mhm.
gotta make them sound good, obviously. You want to take readers on a journey. They have to read it, not see it. You can't, there's no visual cues.
Mhm.
Like yeah, there's certain beats you have to hit, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, certain beats. Like a little schoolgirl. Yeah. But I mean you did, like I said, sorry, on page 232, she did a good job on that one. But I was saying, how do you write that?
Yeah, I think those are the hardest part of the novel for me. I think it's really hard to be sexy without being cringy. I think that at some point too, like I have to read this book 10 or 12 times minimum to edit it. Like we do rounds and rounds of edits, we do line edits, we do copy edits. We do past pages. If there's still a typo in the final version, please don't tell me about it. Right? Like I read this a million times. Um, like just please don't. It doesn't exist. This book
But
is no longer
Mary, I have
mine.
to call you. I saw no, sorry. Page 500 and oh, yeah.
Yeah, but so I've read it so many times that it's hard for me to know if something reads as sweet or as sexy instead of just like corny or cringy. And of course, that line is different for different people. Like I've had readers be like, "Oh my God, this was so steamy and sexy," and I've had readers be like, "Ew." And I was like, I don't know, like if I think it's good, also this is like if I take it and I read it to my wife to be and she blushes, then I'm like, okay, I'm good. But
Oh, okay. I like
that's
it.
also my like my metric. If I can no longer know, I have to go and ask Erin.
Oh my
So
God. Oh, hi, Aaron. And congratulations on that. Why you said wife to
thank
be?
you. Yes, we're getting married this fall. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm excited. I love that. Oh, I love a fall wedding, actually. That's a good time to get married.
Mhm. For
Before your
sure.
winter comes, before your winter comes.
Yeah, definitely.
That's very cool. I like that. That's very cool. I was gonna say that's a great point. I love that. And it's this book is really good. I like it a lot, and I enjoyed it. And I guess there's no sequel. I guess or a spinoff. Or I mean, I'm trying. I guess you could do it, but I guess I mean you could.
I have another contracted book with my publisher that I'm doing. I take it a little different direction. And that one is coming out next year. I don't currently have sequel plans, but I do have a lot of books set in the world that I could write. So that will depend on readers if they pick this book up and read it and demand things of my publisher. I don't really get as much of a say in that. But I do have a couple books in the world, not specifically Paris and Helen, but they do feature. Because I feel like I know I said I kind of leave readers, like you kind of leave like right in the middle of the action. We've got some
Yeah,
resolution, but
yeah.
there is more that could be told for Paris and Helen, and I am not sure that, I have quite the clear vision for how to tell it, but they do appear in these other stories that I have ideas for. So I would love to write more in this world. It's very fun and dark and chaotic, but that will depend on readers for
Well, that's why I
sure.
said when you said it's kind of a prequel, unofficial prequel to actual.
Yeah.
I was like, well, then I guess you still could tell story because the way it ended, you could still could tell story or
Mhm.
spin off story. But you're saying they show up in other ways, so folks, you have to
Yeah.
follow her so you can see what's going on. Now, I was going to ask, are you still writing? Are you still writing YA novels? Are you still going to do those too?
I do. I write YA with Disney. So I have another thriller coming out in September, right before I get married, actually. So it's going to be a crazy fall.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so I write YA thrillers, and I write middle grade with Simon and Schuster. So I have a fantasy Little Women retelling that's called Little Monsters.
Oh my
And
god.
then I have a romantasy coming out next summer with Putnam. And that is called Bromantasy, which is like two gay farmer himbos who accidentally sign up for a quest they're really underqualified for. So I'm like pitching it as like Schitt's Creek meets The Princess Bride.
I'm in.
Um,
I'm in.
and it's so fun, it's so silly. They have to like make smart goals for their like dragon hunting quest. It's so goofy. Um, it's really fun. I write in a lot of different spaces and I'm going to continue to. But the contemporary romance space and the fantasy romance space are really some of my favorites.
I'm going to need to follow you online so I can know what's going on. You have to come back on. You have to come back. I mean, for some of those books you got missing, that the himbo, the bromance, you got to come back on for that. I want to read that for sure.
I will
For
tell my
sure.
publicist to get you a copy as soon
Yes,
as
I definitely want to read that. Oh my god! And so I see just seeing what you did with this. I'd be very curious to see what you did with that. I have big
thank you.
faith in you, so I'm sure it's amazing. So I can't wait to see
The
what.
pivot from like really dark sexy to like humorous but sexy. Oh, when we talk about like spicy scenes, having a humorous book also have like semi-serious sex scenes is such a challenge. We'll see if I actually nail it. We'll coming June 2026, whether I like it or not.
I mean, it's coming out, folks. We'll decide. It's coming out.
One way or another.
I'm so excited. Oh my god, Mary Rose, thanks for being on the show. You're welcome back anytime. You're amazing.
Thank you.
You are
It
amazing.
was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, and happy Pride.
Thank you, you too. Happy Pride to the gay mob.
Yes, okay. I know. Now I said that. We're like, can I get in? And we told me, can I get in? Like, I'm just kidding. I don't really know anybody. I was like, actually, I
We'll
know
have
a
to
few
start
people.
one.
I know yeah, we can start on Mafia. We don't start on
Yeah,
Mafia.
there we go.
If they want to follow you, and now on Amazon, folks, I just want to say this to you guys. See, there's an author page, so they'll simply scroll down. I'll be like, follow author Mary E Roach. Hit that author. I'm following you on there, so simply hit that button so you see all of her works. I mean, there's a bunch of works on there, and I'm actually curious about. I'm actually curious about your YA novels. So I'm kind of curious about those. So make sure you follow her there for sure. But if they want to follow you online anywhere, where can they follow you?
I have both a website and an Instagram, and those are the two I stay up to date. So I'm at maryeroach.com or I'm at Mary E Roach author on Instagram because I want you all to have to type a whole bunch of things in Instagram.
I'm,
So
I'm gonna follow you today. When we get off here, I'm gonna follow you. There's an author. I come and follow you today. Make sure I follow you. So yes, follow her. And seriously, when this airs, it'll be pre-order. But after June 20th comes out, if you're watching this after July 29th, buy it.
thank you.
Pride is all year long, not just this year. That's right, kids. And I'm James Lott Jr. And I have books too. You go on Amazon, get my books. But our page is on Facebook. I am James Lott Jr. Where all James Lott Juniors are sold. James Lott Jr. everywhere, TikTok, everything. I'm everything. So follow us there. Support reading, support authors, support authorship. Reading is fun, and it's summertime. Go read while you're on the plane, waiting for a plane, on the train, on the beach, in between class, whatever. Just reading is good, and I like to support authors. That's why I do this. That's why I do this show. I support authors writing diverse books, and we don't ban books. No banning books. You have a choice. You have a choice of what you want to read.
Mm-hmm.
I'm James Lott Jr. See you next time.